Yeah.
Sorry
You
about
guys
your
doing all right?
hat.
Eh. I tried fixing it today with some super glue, and
Uh-huh.
I got some Gorilla Glue, but no, it
Yeah.
didn't do anything. It snapped right off, and ended up like I put it on, and that's when it snapped off. So I was like, all right, it's not gonna work. Then I realized about 30, 40 minutes later, some of the glue got stuck to the back of my head. I had to like peel off Gorilla Glue off the
Oh,
back of my head.
jeez.
Yeah, dude, that kind of hurt. Not gonna
Yeah, I
lie.
bet.
And welcome back to First, Last, and Best. The road to Supernova has continued. We've gotten through the first 2 weeks. We did Less Than Jake. We did the Toasters. We got another great ska band we're going to be talking about here in the summer of ska here at First, Last, and Best. And we have another guest with us who is very familiar because he's been here multiple times. And we love having him here on the show. But first, let's get to the socials. We're over on TikTok, First, Last, and Best Podcast. We're over on Facebook, First, Last, and Best Podcast. We're on Instagram, First, Last, and Best Podcast. You can find all sorts of stuff, behind the scenes footage over on TikTok. You can find our vinyl collection over on Instagram. You can find Song of the Day over on Facebook, information. If there's requests you guys want to hear or bands you think we should cover, if you want to come on the show and talk about one of your favorite bands, hit me up. Absolutely. I'd love to have you. Like last week, we brought Kevin on the show to talk about the Toasters. I mean, it was a great conversation. I loved having him. Um, Obviously, I have my favorites who come on the show because they have some time and they're willing to spare that time to talk with me and bullshit. But yeah, check out any of the social medias, like, share, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. So whatever streaming platform you enjoy listening and watching this stuff on, that's where we are. So, um, so yeah, let's get into the show today. Like I said, week 3 of our Road to Supernova, Summer of Ska, and you will notice that every band we've covered, and I believe every band we are going to cover up until the final week, um, has played Supernova before. It may not be this year, but they have played Supernova before. And this week's band played last year. It was the first time they played at Supernova, and I ended up missing it. But our guest today was able to catch it last year, so we'll be talking about that in a minute. And our guest, as usual, he talked to us about the Wonder Years. He talked to us about why am I blanking on the other MXPX? There we go. That was the other episode he was on. And now he's here to talk to us and help us on the road to Supernova. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff is back. Jeff, the bassist and vocalist from Sam's the Hero. Jeff, welcome back to the show, buddy.
Thank you so much.
I'm gonna
I have
start like
fun doing
inserting
it.
applause, like over, like so.
I hear applause in my head at all times anyway, so
Nice.
I heard
Okay.
it.
Is it just your kids, or is it like actual
No,
applause
it's
from
just a
people?
overinflated self of sense of importance.
Nice. I like it. Sometimes you get it.
I think you
Sometimes you need that.
have to have a little bit of that to like be a front man for a band. Like you have to
Oh
have just
yeah.
like a teeny bit of narcissism that like I have something people, want to hear or care about hearing.
I
So
am the vocalist. Make way for me. So, as a
yeah,
bass
I try to
player
keep
and
it in
just a
check.
bass player, it's like, oh, I'm just here on this back. So, that's why I jump around so much. So,
There
yeah,
you go.
good times all
Bring the
around.
hype.
Yes. So, what have you been listening to this week? So, let's start with that. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
band of the week,
So
and we'll get there in a second. But
yeah, for sure. Been listening to a lot of them, but uh in this whole you we talked about it in the pre-roll, but you've got me swept up in the summer of ska, and so I've been checking out some new bands
Right.
that I haven't heard that either you or Engel had recommended. And just some bands that had played Supernova before might be playing this year. And so the one that I've been listening to a lot is a band. I don't know if they're playing this year or not. I don't think they are, but they played last year, which was my first introduction to them. Is a band called Hey Smith. They're out of
Ooh,
Japan.
yes.
And they like it was all people were talking about was like, did you see the set? Did you see the set? Did you see the set?
It was a good set.
And I hadn't gone. They had played, I think they played earlier in the day of the day that I went, but I hadn't seen them. And so I was like, well, everybody's
Yeah,
talking about this band. I got to check them out. And so I went and checked them out, and they were just incredible. Like such high energy. We'll talk about this maybe today or maybe at another episode, but like when it comes to ska, I'm definitely like come from like the punk side of ska. Like
of
I
course.
want my ska upbeat, I want it fast, I want distortion, right?
Yeah.
Like give me my upstrokes, but I want them like double time, right? I want
Oh
to
yeah.
pick it up. And so I'm definitely like of that kind of faster, more aggressive ska, and they do that so
Oh
well.
yes, they do.
A little bit of ska core, and so yeah, been listening to a lot of Hey Smith, and definitely recommend to anybody who's on this summer of ska wave with us to give them a listen.
100%. Hey Smith, they played, I think they had a set on Friday afternoon and then again on Sunday, if I remember
Mm,
right. Because I know they played on Sunday. They played either before or after the Big D and the kids table.
yeah.
So that I just remember that. That was a really good set. They are such an amazing band. So I've actually been listening to a little bit of them, listening to Jer, who has a new record coming out August 15th. You can go to his website at, I apologize, their website. Uh, he does, God bless it. I am so sorry. They do go by they, them. So I just want to make sure that we're being respectful. Um, their website, check it out. It's going to be an amazing record. Comes out August 15th. So definitely highly recommend going and checking it out. Uh, Fishbone, obviously, as you can see back here. At the same time, AFI just dropped their new single yesterday, I think. And I listened to it today, and I'm going to be the minority opinion here. I didn't like it. I was just,
Really?
yeah, like I really love old AFI, like the faster punk AFI. But there was just something about this single, maybe it's just the way it started. I just didn't enjoy it that much. So I just kind of was like, okay, maybe I'll give it another try at some point. But it just wasn't for me. Not this one anyway. So which kind of sucks because I really
Yeah.
do like AFI, but this particular
Yeah, I've
single
never
just,
been the biggest.
yeah,
Yeah, I've never been the biggest AFI fan. Like I like the old stuff. Like the was it Octoberween and like uh
All Hallows Eve
Silver
EP.
Cold. Yeah, All Hallows Eve. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like and so like yeah, the singles like I always liked, but they've never
yeah,
been somebody that I've followed with each release or anything.
yeah.
So yeah, I haven't listened to the new single, but
I don't know. It's not my speed, which is kind of sad because while they're not a band I will steadily follow, they are like, if something comes out, I'll definitely go give it a listen. So,
yeah.
but what can you do? You can't like everything. So, as much
No.
as you can try,
And
you can't like
and
everything.
there's so much coming out like
Oh
it's
yeah.
just easy to it's hard to keep up with everybody all the time. I've
Yeah,
just been
that's
like
true.
even like local bands, there've been a few local bands that have dropped new singles lately that I've been
Yep.
following and tracking with, and so yeah, it's just hard to keep up with. And then Millington just dropped a new EP and
Yes, they did.
just a little while ago, and like so there's Goldfinger new single and yeah, just
That's such a
uh
great song, dude.
yeah, that is fun. I like that
That
song a
was a
lot.
banger. I love that.
Um, so yeah, there's just it's hard to keep up with everything, man. Gotta pick
That's
and
true.
choose.
Exactly. All right. So with that, we are going to go into our band of the week. And like I said, they did play Supernova last year. It was actually the first time they played Supernova. And if you haven't been able to tell with the Easter eggs that I keep dropping, we are talking about Five Iron Frenzy. Um, so when I first started listening to them, my brother brought home a copy of Proof That the Youth Are Revolting. And that's when I really started listening to them. Like that was the first album I'd listened to, and that was a live recording from Cornerstone, if I remember right.
Yeah,
Um,
yep.
which that album was, dude, that was something else. That kind of opened my eyes to the music that they were putting out. When did you start listening to Five Iron?
So this is funny, and correct me if I'm wrong, uh, but this will be like the first time covering like like overtly Christian band on your
Yes.
podcast, right? Like, yeah. And
MXPX
so,
had some undertones of it, but
yeah,
not nearly to the point that Five Iron does.
yeah, fought like early in MXPX career, there were some references and some stuff, but like Mike doesn't consider himself, a Christian anymore, and I don't think they ever considered themselves a Christian band, even though that
Yeah.
like made it, influences into their songwriting. Five Iron's like a whole different way.
Oh,
Like
they
their stuff is very explicit,
steered
very
very hard
in your
into it.
face, and I bring that up because, funny enough, that was my introduction to Five Iron. Was when I was in high school. Um, I think I was a sophomore, and there was a dude who lived in a cul-de-sac.
Hmm.
And I would walk. I didn't have a car, I couldn't drive. I wasn't old enough to drive. And when so I'd walk to the bus stop, and this dude's name was Jimmy. And every once in a while, when he was driving by me on the way to school, he'd pull over and be like, "Hey, do you want to ride?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, I'm not going to turn that down. Like, yeah, for sure. I get to ride with an upperclassman and not have to sit on the bus. Like, it was cool. And what I honestly think, because Jimmy knew, so he knew that I was into music. He knew, like, at that time, I was very heavily into like Dead Kennedys and Pennywise, Bad Religion, No Effects, like the very um more, the punk rock side of things. And he knew that.
Yeah.
But Jimmy was a church kid. And I think, honestly, in retrospect, I think I was like Jimmy's project. And so what we would do is when he would pick me up and he'd drive me, he would put in like Christian bands like that he thought I might like because they were like in the vein
Yeah.
of some of these other bands that I listened to. And Five Iron was one of those bands. And so and at the time I was like, this is lame. Like like when he tried to show me Five Iron, like, and we may get into this a little bit. Five Iron has always been a band, especially early on, that had a sense of humor. And so a lot
Yeah.
of their albums have like joke tracks and like just silly songs. And like that was like, I think the point that he tried, like, I think he showed me Kitty Doggy and like some of those songs is like,
Yeah.
isn't this funny? Don't, isn't this cool? And I was like, dude, this is dumb. Like, I don't like this. And then one day we were driving to school and there's this track playing and I was like, ooh, okay, this doesn't suck. And it was My Evil Plan to Save the World off of Quantity is
Yep.
Job One. And that was like the first time that I was like, oh, okay, maybe there's something to this band. And so I still didn't dive into them until later in high school because at that
Yeah.
point in my life, I was still like, I don't, Christian music it's like worse version of good music, right? Like there's no, like that was definitely my mindset in high school. And it wasn't until like later my senior year where I started kind of opening my mind to Christian music. And then I was like, oh, I remember Five Iron. I should go back and check out Five Iron. And sure enough, it was Proof That the Youth Are Revolting was the first album of theirs that I actually bought.
Yep.
Which is a great intro to them because it's all the classics of like, their first couple albums are on there and
That's
they
true.
put on such a great live show. So it lets you in, like gives you their personality and like so that was the first album of theirs that I bought. Although, yeah, My Evil Plan to Save the World was the first track of theirs that I heard, and it's still one of my favorites of theirs.
That that really is a great song, and I still to this day, while I will say this, uh, while I definitely have more Christian leanings, my view of the church at this point is kind of not the best. So I've just had being a parent of a special needs kid, it's really hard to fall into a church and like have things work out successfully 100%. It just it's a very hard experience and I don't want to like get too far into it. Um, but it's just one of those things where it's just like I, I realize that they are probably the only Christian recognized Christian band that I still listen to and will listen to completely. Um, and like I have a little bit of a harder time listening to Proof That the Youth Are Revolting at this point, just because sometimes I'm just like, okay, I don't need as much of that. But so
Yeah.
I've definitely kind of leaned more towards their later, and we'll get into like their music. It's just I do appreciate everything that they do, and I can definitely get. I don't want to jump too far into this. I keep saying that, and I, I'm trying to underline it, but try and get out of this conversation right now. So let's do that. Let's get out of this conversation right now.
Let's get out of
Um,
the conversation.
yes, although I've never seen them live. I've listened to obviously Proof that Youth are Revolting, but otherwise I've never seen them
Mhm.
live before, which is one of those things that I really wanted to change. But I guess last year I ended up having to work on Friday, and that was the day that they played. And my buddy Fish called me while I was underneath a house because I remember exactly where it was. And I pulled out my phone real quick, saw that he is calling. I'm like, dude, I'm under a house. I can't answer right now. I got work to do. So like when I get out from underneath the house, like 20, 30 minutes later, like I'm in my truck. I'm like, right, Chris called him, call him back. So I called him. He's like, dude, why didn't you answer? I'm like, I'm working, man. I'm underneath a house. I'm not gonna answer the phone when I'm like if it's my wife or my father-in-law, I'll answer. But I'm not gonna answer the phone. I'm underneath the house unless I have to. He's like, but I had Reese. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I was hanging out with Reese and I told him that you couldn't make it to the show, so he wanted to call you. I'm like, son of a
Oh, that's cool.
bitch, really? And for those of you who don't know, Reese is the vocalist for Five Iron Frenzy. So,
Yeah.
I'm hoping that they'll come back to Supernova one day and I'll be able to see them, or they come back through this area of Virginia. Five Iron Frenzy, if you're watching this or listening to this or seeing this in any way, shape, or form, please come back to this area of Virginia. I would very much appreciate it. We'd love to see you live. Thank you.
Yeah.
Moving on. So let's start with their first album, Upbeats and Beatdowns. I was actually introduced to this album. Like I said, I Proof that the Youth Are Revolting was the first album that I listened to, and probably the first album, only album I listened to for a very long time, because it was basically a collection of their best songs to that point. It wasn't until I was dating a girl, very like late. I was like 18, 19 years old. I was dating a girl that was going to ODU, I think, and we were hanging out one night, and she gave me a copy of Upbeats and Beatdowns. So it was kind of weird going from that live album to the recorded stuff, but it was still like a very good album. And this is
Yeah.
obviously, like we said, they are a Christian band and they are very upfront in your face about their spirituality, which is great. Um, and it comes through with a lot of their music. Like I said, like at this point later in my life, I'm having a bit of a harder time with it, but I still think Upbeats and Beatdowns was a very, very good album, very well put together. So
Yeah, for sure. And the fun thing about Five Iron, so again, Christian band, and yeah, I have a ton of people who are not that still enjoy them. And I think one of the reasons for that is that they have, even though they themselves are people of faith, they have never been shy at all about critiquing organized religion, critiquing the church,
that's true.
critiquing American conservatism, right? And so, like, I mean, right off the bat in this first album, like they come out swinging, man. Like they're taking on Manifest Destiny, and they're taking on Christian nationalism, and they're taking on capitalism and materialism. Like they are railing against the things that honestly people of faith should rail against. And I think that is one of the things that has and that has continued to be, part of who they are throughout their
Yeah.
career. And
Oh,
so I
this.
think that is one of the things that makes them a little more palatable for maybe people that find Christianity not very appealing at all,
Yeah.
is that they have never been one to pull punches about all the things that particularly the Western American church gets
Yeah.
so wrong about what the Christianity should be. And yeah, they come out swinging with this first album like no joke.
They stick with it too, and we'll get into it when we talk about Until It Shakes Apart. But I did
Hmm.
feel like this was a very enjoyable album and very much a testament of the time that it came out because this was like middle of the third wave. Like you had bands like Less Than Jake, you had bands like Real Big Fish, things like that. Whereas more of like I guess the poppier version of ska versus like trad ska or like someone like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones, where they had some pop to it, but it was very kind of had more of an edge. Um, but this was very more of like the poppy Lesson J kind of style, which is very good. And I love like the kind of joke tracks that they do. And like Anthem, obviously on this record, and Flowery Song, great songs. Really enjoy those. But there's quite a lot on here. I mean, that's just fun and good and just kind of very upbeat, which is, at that point, what is it came out in 97?
97, yeah.
Yeah. So it was just that kind of time when it came to ska. That was the kind of music that was coming out. So it was very much kind of focused on that, which is good. I mean, it definitely
Yeah.
helps, and it's very like upbeat and colorful, and um,
Yeah, it's definitely a product of its time in that, Five Iron started off as a side project. Reese and a couple other guys in the band were doing this metal project called Exhumator. And
yeah,
then Five Iron was like the fun ska side project that got far more popular than the original until they finally were like, all right, this is just going to be our thing now. So it was definitely like there was some at that time period that's what people wanted. It was definitely they far more appealing.
yeah.
And yeah, there's some really fun songs in here. You mentioned Flowery Song. Flowery Songs is one of the first songs that I learned how to play on bass. I
Oh,
think that the
nice.
yeah, when I started learning bass, I think the very first riff that I picked up was Chick Magnet by MXPX.
Yeah,
And I
that sounds
think
about
the
right.
second riff that I started with was Flowery Song. And
Nice.
so I remember just sitting, I was actually working at a church at the time, and I remember just sitting in my office, not doing the work I was supposed to be doing, with my bass in my lap and tabs in front of me on my work computer, just do 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 do, and just until I could get the muscle memory down.
Yeah,
And so yeah, a lot of my because I didn't pick up playing the bass until after high school, and so yeah, a lot of my bass playing was just playing along to Five Iron. They were one of
nice.
my bigger bass influences at the time. I feel like that doesn't always show through in our music. Some of the older tracks more than some of the newer tracks, but
Yeah,
yeah, definitely when I was learning, that was what I did was played a lot of Five Iron bass riffs.
yeah. I was gonna say I do like their bass riffs. Their bass players have always been very spot on. I do like how I just very much enjoy the bass lines. I don't want to get too technical about it, but it's always
Yeah.
been very kind of fun and upbeat and really enjoyable and not really all over the place, but definitely they keep the beat so freaking well.
Hmm.
And I love the horn
Yeah.
lines too. It's so
Yeah.
good. Ska is one of those really wonderful genres of music that can say something, but at the same time can make you feel something like despite the message of the song, it could be so upbeat and poppy and everything and talking about something completely different. But it just the horn that just do something that just adds like this like huge just like feeling, you know? Um,
Yeah, I remember being at a Suburban Legends show. We actually
yeah.
we had opened up for Suburban Legends, and it was I was there with my friend Christy, who I just recently introduced you guys, connected you guys,
Yep.
and we're sitting there, and if you're seeing a Suburban Legends, you got to dance because you have to because they're dancing, you got
Of
to
course.
dance too, and we're just like like if you're not singing the horn parts, like are you really at a ska show, or at least is the ska band worth seeing? Like if you don't find yourself
That's true.
just singing the horn parts with your mouth, then I don't know if it's a ska band worth their salt.
I 100% agree with that. All right. Well, while this was definitely more like the popular side, as you continue through their discography and you get later and later and later into the discography, and in 2021, this was what I think 8, 9 years after their last album. Like
Yeah, yeah, about 10 years.
there was a significant break. I know Aaron Carnes in Defense of Ska. If you haven't read it, go read it. He actually covered this in his book. I don't remember 100% because I haven't read it, and it's been like 6 or 8 months since the last time I picked it up, and really kind of
Hmm.
gave it a good read. Um, he covered why like they were on such a long hiatus, but I think because when I started re-listening to everything, I kind of whenever I do this show, I usually like to go to the first, I like to go to the last, and then I'll start like picking up different records and listening to them and seeing like it's very much a shock to the system when you start listening to upbeats and upbeats, beat downs, sorry, and then you
Yeah.
go into Until the Shakes Park, because this is a very, very different feel. I mean,
Yeah.
while there's definitely, you can tell they are still a Christian band, and they where they feel, and like you said, like in upbeats and beatdowns, they covered quite a lot with anti-cap, not necessarily anti-capitalism, but like pointing out like the where the church is, and hey, maybe we shouldn't be doing this. This is like straight in your face, way more politically motivated album than anything else that they've put out to this point. Like Renegades alone, I was listening to
Yeah.
that song, and I'm like, they are very much in your face and how they feel. Very not necessarily confused, but almost angry at how the church has developed and how they have started leaning into these quote unquote Christian values that don't necessarily align with what the Bible tells you. So, and they have caught a lot of flack from the right wing Christian community for speaking out. And I know people who have gotten like angry at them for their stance on guns alone because I mean, come on, dude. They grew up near Columbine. They were witnesses to one of the worst school shootings in American history. I mean, and Jesus Christ, I mean, that's a long freaking. I try to keep the show apolitical, and I'm sorry if I feel like I'm kind of getting on my soapbox here. Um, but the fact that they feel this way is not surprising to me at all.
Yeah.
So, what surprised me the most was how far they took it with this album. And I'm actually like thankful for that,
Hmm.
that there is a band that labels themselves and calls themselves Christian and actually speaks up for what the Bible actually says, and you know is trying to speak truth to power, especially through this album. This is probably one of my favorite albums that they've put out. Easily top three, almost top one, but there's one that I will get to in a little bit, that I enjoyed a bit more. But I feel like even with the political posturing, that this holds the charm that they've always had, even if it felt a bit edgier, I guess is the best way to put it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and you mentioned Columbine. Columbine was a big part of their story. They wrote A New Hope in light of Columbine, and that was, if I remember right, I didn't refresh myself prior to this episode like I should have. But I don't think I said this right up front. Five Iron is my actual favorite band. Like they hold the title of favorite band for me. So everything that
really,
I'm saying, I'm just pulling out of the recesses, which my memory has been not super great the last few years. But I'm pretty sure they had a band member's sibling that was
yeah,
involved in the Columbine shooting. That was
yeah,
one of the victims, and so they wrote A New Hope about that. And so yeah, and then yeah, this album just goes so hard, and you kind of mentioned it a little bit, but it was so funny to me, when this album came out, um, and there were so many people that were like the narrative was, well, Five Iron's woke now. And like that was the
yeah.
narrative. There's so many people that criticized them for Five Iron got political. And I had so much fun just going like talking to these people online in the comments, and I get pointing to the very things that we pointed out about their very first album. It's like, no, Five Iron didn't get political. Five Iron
They've been,
didn't get leftist. Like they didn't get progressive. They have been criticizing the same things since their inception. The problem is like you along the road became one of the bad guys, and you didn't realize it. And so whereas like you were like in your youth group, you were, singing along to When I Go Out, I Play in the Street and Get Hit by Cars, and you weren't listening to the content of what they were saying, that's on you,
yeah,
bro. And like now you're mad that that they've gone political. And it's like, no, they have been a prophetic voice against Western Christianity from the beginning. And now, one of the things to kind of put some context to some of the things that you were pointing out is that, those early albums before their hiatus, they were on a Christian record label, and
Yeah.
it wasn't it was an independent label, but and so they kind of, they make some jokes about it, here or there with some of their albums, and even in some of like their banter in the live albums and stuff. But there was a little bit of a reining in, and you can hear, I think there was a Reese did a interview on oh shoot, what podcast was it that he went on recently? Was it might have been Lead Singer Syndrome. It might have been, I don't remember, but he went on a podcast a few years ago, and he shares some stories about a little bit of a reining in that there were some things that they wanted to do that Frank Tate,
Yeah.
who was the owner of 5 Minute Walk, which was the label they were on, would be like, you can't do that, or like just kind of rein that in a little bit, like, and now they're, completely independent. Their financial lives are not dependent upon like the finances of Five Iron, right? Like they're all
Yeah.
doing their own thing. They all have their own jobs or things that they're doing. And so it really is like they no longer had to worry about who they might offend, or didn't have that like kind of counterbalance reining them in a little bit about like what they wanted to
Yeah.
say, and then kind of putting that through a filter to make it more palatable. And so I think that's why they are quite a bit more explicit on this album, because like Engine of a Million Plots and Between the Pavement and the Stars, like those are both post hiatus albums as well. But I think
Yeah.
the focus there was like, hey, we're back. And like that was kind of like the novelty of, oh, Five Iron's back making music again. And those albums had something to say, but the focus was that like, oh, they're back and they're a band again. Whereas this
Yeah.
album was very much like, we wrote this album because we have something to say. Like there is a
Yeah.
message that we want to get across, and it not having to be filtered or not having to be reined in at all, I think is why you get that kind of blatant, explicit message. Like one of my favorite tracks on the album, and it came out on the Ska Against Racism compilation before the album came out, was the While
Yeah.
Supplies Last. And
Yes.
yeah, just I mean, just a scathing, diss track on um American conservatism and the religious right and the hypocrisy, and so yeah, I can see why people who liked them in the 90s or liked them when they were a youth group band suddenly feeling like maybe disenfranchised by the later albums.
Yeah.
But it's like, what's the like a hit dog's gonna holler, right? Like you are the
That's
thing that
true.
they're criticizing. And so that's why you're feeling some tension there. And so you can either examine that or you can just, write it off as, oh, Five Irons woke, right? So that's an invitation if you're somebody who who does is uncomfortable with the content of the later albums. An invitation to introspection.
100%. Yes, it's time to look deeper inside of yourself and perhaps think a little more about. Once again, we try to stay political on this show, but if you haven't noticed, we're all kind of progressive. Not this, I wouldn't say liberals, but we're definitely more progressive leaning. Um, what? Shocker. People who like
Ska
punk rock are
fans, a
progressives.
genre that was
Ska fans are progressives?
born
Holy
out of
shit.
justice and racial justice. What?
What? That's crazy. All right, so we've done the first, we've done the last. Jeff, what do you think is their best album?
Okay, I want you to know something. When we started recording, I didn't have this answered yet. I'm
Oh,
wavering between
really?
two. Yeah, I'm
Okay.
wavering between two. I am still wavering between two. So I'm going to open up my mouth, and whichever one comes out, that's what it's going to be.
Okay.
Uh,
I like
I
it.
think I'm going to go with The End Is Near.
The end is
Which
near.
I'm sorry, got re-released as The End Is Here. So originally The End Is Near, and then they packaged it with a live album of the final show, and so it became a two-disc The End Is Here. Um,
Okay.
but I think that is going to be what I think their best album is. I won't say what I was wavering back and forth between because I want to hear what you have to say first. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to influence. I want to hear your thoughts, and then I'll give the one that I think was like 1A, 1B. Um, but yeah, the production on The End Is Near is it's like their production continued to improve. Upbeats and beatdowns, sounded like it was made in 1997, right? And
Oh
so
yeah,
their production has
100%.
continued to improve. Their songwriting has matured. They still had, some silly, stupid songs because that's part of who they are, and they're gonna balance the serious with um, with the levity a little bit. I think that
Yeah,
helps make both more effective. But I think their songwriting has matured. The melodies on that album are great. So far is such a great song. I don't want to get into some songs that might come up again, come up again later. Um, but yeah, just I think everything about that album and it's both it rides this line of being both melancholic and hopeful at the same time because
yeah,
it was their farewell album. They, unlike kind of what happens now where when bands go on hiatus, it's just kind of like a how long is it going to be before they come back for like anniversary shows and reunion tours and stuff. That
of
what
course.
like when Five Iron broke up, this was before that was like a regular occurrence. Like I think people like legit they were done, they were dead. Um,
Yeah.
hey buddy. I love you guys. Good night. I love you. Okay, real quick. That's okay. I was just, in the middle of ranting. Hey, thank you, sweetheart. I love you so much. Good night. Um, sorry, I'll give you an edit point if you want it. That's up to you if you want to use
No,
it.
that's
But
okay. You're good. You're
yeah,
good. You're
when
good.
when when this album came out, it was like Five Iron. It was like for real. It was they were dead. Like
Yeah.
there was no thought in their mind of I think of them coming back, and they wrote that album like it was a goodbye. And so the songs that are on there, like I said, it's this beautiful balance of melancholy and hopefulness.
Yeah.
Um, uh, yeah, it's just I think for me that's my favorite, and we can go into individual tracks. Some of them might come up again later because I still don't have my final three cemented yet either.
Oh God.
It was hard,
I will
man.
tell
It
you
was hard.
this. I do have a top three, but I also have three honorable mentions.
Nice.
So, um,
Very nice. Very nice.
End is Near is a very good album. I really enjoyed it. But in all honesty, like as I said earlier, their later stuff has always held, especially as I've gotten older. I've their older stuff has really kind of resonated with me more than like Upbeats and Beatdowns and All the Hype the Money Can Buy, our newest album ever. All good albums, but Engine of a Million Plots, that has
Yeah.
stuck with me. That is starting with again against the Sea of Troubles. Obviously, it was a very good balance of some of their poppier stuff, some of their goofier stuff. Um, which I will get into in my top three. Um, but this was just, it feels like there's not an ounce of fat on this album. Every song, while there have quite a few bangers on this, I really feel like this is just an album you can put on. You don't have to skip. Obviously, so far, Zen and the Art of Xenophobia, great freaking track. It's so good. But at the same time, it really felt like a very good balance of their kind of goofy side, but at the same time showing you what the future was going to hold, especially because it felt like there was kind of a you could see where the foundations of Until the Shakes Part were starting to be built, where they had like obviously like we've talked about the earlier albums had some core of like filtered political leanings. This was starting to open up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I really feel like that this album, I love it. I really do. I've out of all the albums that I've listened to over the last several days, since obviously the end of our Toasters episode, so for the last week, this is probably the album I've gone back and listened to again and again.
Yeah.
And I truly, truly enjoyed this album.
Yeah, it is a really good album and will always hold a special place because it was the comeback album.
Yeah.
Like I just remember like the Dark and Stormy Night like when and that was the track that they wrote, they recorded and they released as part of their Kickstarter. Like they
Yeah.
released that single first to kickstart that album. And kickstart, like, again, Five Iron was on the front end of a lot of things. When they kickstarted this album, they set the record for a musical project on Kickstarter. And since then,
Yeah.
that record has been demolished, right? But at the time, um, yeah, they set the record for a kickstarted musical project because the fans were that rabid about wanting them back, and they
Absolutely.
they set a goal, and that they had like a month, and it was destroyed in the first 12 hours. Like, um, yeah, it was, and so I remember when the news came out that they were kickstarting an album, they were going to be recording and releasing a new album, and then release Dark and Stormy Night. Like, I remember putting in my headphones and pressing play, and it was just like, I don't even, it was almost like a narcotic. Like, hearing that
Yeah.
in my ears was just like, oh my gosh, because again, they've been my favorite band like since high school. And so to
Yeah.
have them be gone, to have them come back, and then to hear that first single after, I forget, 9 8 9 years, however long it was,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, it just felt like euphoric, like hearing that sound in my ears again. And then and that was just the single. The album went on. When the album, finally came around, came out, it was also, yeah, it was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a great choice. That wasn't the other one that I was waffling between, though. The
Oh
one
yeah.
that I
What
was
was the other
waffling
one?
between, it was Electric Boogaloo.
Okay.
I really like Electric Boogaloo too. And I think, again, that's just fun. And fun, good production, which, I'm kind of a sucker for good production. But
Yeah.
ultimately I went with the End Is Near. There's just so many good songs on there, and they, the same, just like with Engine, they balance like they've got, um, you know, not like all those other old guys, which is a fun song. They've got Wizard Needs Food, which is another fun
Yep.
song. But then, like, the ones that hit, that, like, New Year's Eve is such a beautiful song. It Was Beautiful is just a beautiful song. One of my
Yeah.
top three is on here, so I'm not going to get to that yet. But yeah, the songs are just like, so, yeah, the early stuff is fun. Newest album ever was their breakout, and like, I feel like for a lot
Yeah.
of people, especially the ones that grew up in that era, that's going to be their favorite one. But for me, yeah, the later stuff just hits better, and it's more mature, and it's probably, just we talked about this with Wonder Years and MXPX too. Like, you grow up with a band, and so you appreciate how they grow and mature with you, alongside you.
Oh yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm a fan of the later, even though both of my albums that I picked were both pre-hiatus. I love the post hiatus albums as well. They're just fantastic.
100%. All right. We've covered first, last, and best. It's time for our top three. What is your,
Okay.
do you have an honorable mention and what is your number three?
So I didn't have one, but then I feel it because you have some, it gave me permission to have one. So I'm gonna throw one out there, and it's because it's a silly song, but like, legitimately, even though it's just a stupid dumb song, it almost crept into my top three. And so now I'm glad to have an opportunity to give it an honorable mention. And it's off my least favorite album. All the Hype Money Can Buy is my least favorite Five Iron album. It's a fine
Yeah.
album. I don't dislike it, but it does, if I'm ranking, it comes at the bottom. Um, but You Probably Shouldn't Move Here is off
All right.
All the Hype Money Can Buy, and it's like a straight up polka song about Denver, and just with stupid voices and weird cameos, and but it's so much fun. It is so
Yeah.
much fun. Um and so if I had an honorable mention, that would be my honorable mention. And then Oh, I did want to throw out, I'm sorry, not to wreck your format. I did want to
Oh,
throw
you're
out,
fine.
there was an album that may have been in my contention for number one,
Yeah.
except that it's considered an EP. And usually we focus on the studio albums,
That's
but
true.
their quantity is job one. Um,
Yes.
it has the quality of songs, for the ratio of quality songs to amount of songs on that album, is like
Yeah.
golden. Like, depending on how you count the tracks, because that one has the whole "This Is Not My Pants" suite, right? Where it's like, "This Is Not My Pants" parts 1 through six or however many or eight, however many there are.
Yeah.
But there's like eight, other tracks on there, and I forgot how many like really good tracks are on there. One Girl Army is on there. The Untimely Death of
Dandelions is on
Brad is
there.
on there, which is an incredible song. The Yeah, there's My Evil Plan to Save the World, right? What song that I already
Yep.
mentioned is on there. Like there's so many, like the ratio of it being a shorter EP with the amount, there's like an ELO cover on there out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But even that one's fun. Like, yeah, that one might have been in contention, and I dismissed it only out of convenience because I was having a hard enough time picking number one that I said, "Oh, that's an EP," so we're just gonna dismiss that.
We'll
But
just ignore that for
there's
right
some
now.
yeah, there's some fantastic songs on there. One of them is going to come up again in a minute. Actually, let's bring it up right now. So I gave you my honorable mention. I'm going to jump into number three. My number three, in no particular order, is off that album, and I think I heard you mention it while I was talking. It's Dandelions. So Dandelions is my number
Great
three.
song.
So we talked about, not to rehash it or anything. We talked about Five Iron being a Christian band. Um, and I mentioned that, I anecdotally know a lot of people who enjoy Five Iron, even if either A, they've never been religious, or B, they used to be religious and no longer consider themselves religious, that they still, can enjoy Five Iron just on the basis of the band that they are and the quality of their musicianship and what they write about. Um, it would be disingenuous for me to pretend like the fact that they are a faith influenced band is part of what I love about them so much. Because
Yeah.
being a person of faith myself, it is hard for me to like their music and their message are tied together in such a way that it's impossible for me to like separate them in like their in how I talk about them. And so you'll get that for all three of my favorites are going to be pretty heavy on the faith expression
Yeah.
part of their music. And so Dandelions is great. My wife and I have matching Dandelions tattoos.
Oh,
They're
nice.
not identical, but they both take the same lyric, which is "You see flowers in these weeds." And so those were both of ours. They were our first tattoos. Like I said, they're not identical, but they both use the same lyric. Hers is on her shoulder,
Yeah.
mine's on my arm, and yeah, Dandelions is such a beautiful song, and um I'm not gonna sermonize or anything, but there's a beautiful message about how uh, a little boy is bringing a bouquet of dandelions to his mom, and that the idea that dandelions, in their essence, they're weeds, right? They're not even
Yeah.
considered flowers. They're weeds, but to this kid, like he has put together the most beautiful bouquet of flowers that he could give to his mother, and that through her eyes, they're not weeds. Like she sees the beautiful bouquet that was his
Yeah.
intent behind it. And so there's a faith expression there about the way that God sees us, but also there's like for us, there's like this is the way that we ought to interact with other people as well. Like,
Yeah.
maybe instead of writing people off or expecting the worst, like give people a chance first, right? Like, maybe
Yeah.
give them like see the best. And then, if somebody burns you, you got to put boundaries up and you got to write someone out of your life for your own health, well-being, safety, whatever the case may be. Like, absolutely. But like, you know, maybe see through to the heart of what someone's doing, like I said, at least until they give you a reason not to give them the benefit of the doubt, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's something that yeah, so that hits deep for me. And so Dandelions is number three for us, or
Nice.
for me. Sorry, I said us because
Oh,
my wife, she did her own
yeah.
top three when I was trying to discuss it. This was also on her
Did
top
she
three.
really?
Yeah.
Nice. I like that.
I
All right.
needed a sounding
So,
board and a conversation partner.
so my number three kind of ping ponged back and forth between being a number three and being an honorable mention. And then it bounced back to being number three again. Because I felt like, well, I'll get into that in a second. But my honorable mentions all come from Engine of a Million Parts. Well, no, two of the three come from Engine of a Million Parts. To Start a Fire, which I've really, really enjoyed. It's a really great song.
Yeah.
And I Am Jack Smirking Revenge.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is that a buddy of mine in high school and post high school started a band called Jack Smirking Revenge.
Oh,
And that
really?
kind of that well that started and then like from that, like that band fell apart, but a new band kind of blossomed out of that called Behind White Lies, which they should have been much bigger than what they were. They were so amazing. Anyways, but those two, and I finally listened to Heard That Sound with the Five Iron Horns, and that
Yeah,
has
yeah,
to be my
yeah.
other honorable mention. That was so fun to listen to. That was really cool. So
Yeah, man.
my number three. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just want to give a public apology because when we recorded the MXPX episode, I told you I was going to send you that Horns EP, which we found heard that sound wasn't on there, but the other ones that were on there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, hard drive that I had died and wasn't backed up, and it
Oh, that
had like
sucks.
all of my like digital music on it.
Oh
And that
no.
album is not available on streaming, so I need to go back through because I'm pretty sure it was a Kickstarter reward. So I just need to go back through and find. I'm sure I have a link to it in emails. I will find it
Yeah.
and I will get it to you.
It's not a big deal
Um,
because I completely forgot about it. So
it's a big deal to
so
me, man. I want you to take me at my word, but I'll do my
oh
best
yeah,
to
no,
get.
dude, I'm good. But my number three, so I kind of went in a completely different direction than you did because they have one of their goofier songs that I absolutely love, and it's so stupid and ridiculous. And I'm sure there's a message in there somewhere. I just don't know where it is, and I don't really care. It is Battle Dancing Unicorns with Glitter
Yes.
off Engine of a Million Plots. That song is so ridiculous and so
Uh-huh.
wonderful. And that was honestly when I I started listening to Five Iron again. That was the first song I started listening to because I was just like, wait, what? What is the
Yeah.
name of this song? Let me. It felt so dumb and stupid. I was like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. And the more I listened to it, the more I was like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is
Yeah.
just like a very like not I don't want to say run of the mill, but just kind of like a very good interpretation of what ska should be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just needs to be kind of goofy and ridiculous, and you battle dance unicorns with glitter. I mean, 100%. So that
Have
that
you
had
have you
that
seen the video?
I have not. I've
The
only
video
listened
is
to the
fun. You
track.
should look it
All
up.
right, I'm
Yeah.
gonna need
It's
to go
got a
listen
fun
to that.
video.
All right. What's your number two?
Number two. So I this is going to be weird and maybe cheating. Actually, I take that back. My original thought was to put number one and number two as a 1A, 1B, and so cheat and get four songs. And there's a
Okay,
reason for it that will become apparent, I think, in a minute. Um, but I decided to separate them and keep them one and two. And so number two for me is going to be Every New Day. And
great song.
if you're familiar with the band, Every New Day was their anthem, and it
Yep,
became the song that they played, that they closed every show with.
yep,
Um, and yeah, I'm not gonna do a sermon for every one of these songs, but there's just a beautiful message of
great
um
horn line too.
yeah, oh yeah, great horn line, the guitar that just
Yeah,
yeah, the groove is
yeah,
so good on it. Yeah, musically it's incredible. Um, and yeah, just the message of um growing up and um making mistakes, but every new day being new, that you don't have to be defined
yeah,
by those mistakes. You don't have to be defined by your worst day. There is a clean slate available to you. And so you can, wake up every new day being new, and deciding how you're gonna, what that day is going to go like, and not being identified with your worst mistakes or your worst days. And it ends with just a really great like tag, like an ending tag,
yeah,
that is just really anthemic, really like sing at the top of your lungs, like, and it's why it became their closing song. And they kind of did, you mentioned in our Wonder Years episode about Wonder Years ending their albums with like a big number that frequently, worked in the themes and motifs from the rest of the album. Five
yep.
Iron hasn't done that so much, but they have been a band that tries to make that last song hit. And so Every
Oh
New
yeah,
Day was a final song. New Hope was a final song. Eulogy was a final song. Like those final songs of the album, they really make it feel like a closer. They're
They
really,
really
really
do.
good at doing that. And so Every New Day was a closer of an album and then became a closer of their set for almost their entire career. And it was so weird because I did see them at Supernova last year, and it was the first time I'd seen them that they didn't close with Every New Day. And it was
Really?
like it was weird, it was like and
What'd they close
it
with?
was great. They closed with Cool Enough for You off of Upbeats and Beatdowns. Which I was like, what? Like that but it
Like, no,
fit.
you're
Like
not done yet.
but it was perfect. Like I was surprised because I had an expectation that was
Yeah.
unmet. And then for them to go so old school with that song, and I think that they bring my memory again is not the best these days, but I'm pretty sure they brought up Rude Girl Review for that last song to
Yeah.
to do that last song with them. And and it worked. It worked as a closer. Like it absolutely, left nothing on the table. But it was so weird to see them and not have them finish with Every New Day. Was wild to me. But
You know, I just a quick tag to that. Um, Caitlin and I used to go see Toby Mac all the time, and for those who like Christian music, you know who Toby Mac is. But for the longest time, like he would always close his sets with Jesus Freak. He would pull out DC Talk and
uh-huh.
do Jesus Freak. He stopped doing it. And it was like it was a very big shock to the system when the first time where he show ended. I don't even remember what he closed with, but it was just like he didn't do Jesus Freak. It's like no, he's not done yet. Why is everyone leaving the stage? Why are the lights on? This is weird. No, you're not done yet. So this is not the closing number. Come on, guys. So it is very when a band becomes that like ingrained that this is their closing number. It doesn't matter. Like Dropkick Murphys with Skinhead on MTBA, they stopped doing that at the end of their shows,
Mhm.
which threw me off completely the first time. Like I was just like, "Are yo, you guys aren't done yet. You haven't done Skinhead." So it's just like there are some bands that just like have that ingrained final song that they have to play, and if
Yeah.
they don't play it, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so my number two is off until the shakes apart, and I mentioned it earlier, and that's Renegades.
Hmm.
I love that they were able to put together an album by themselves to, well, obviously, raise money, Kickstarter, and be able to do things how they want to do that. And then to put out a song like this that is so in your face, like, here's how we view you. Like this is no longer like we're not pulling punches anymore.
Hmm.
Like we are tired of how you're doing things, attacking Congress, attacking lobbyists, like really like calling on Columbine and Sandy Hook to almost shame politicians with what they're doing. And I love the bridge because because this album very much seems more political leaning than religious leaning, although like they definitely like lean on it too. But the bridge where they're basically saying like you want the Christians to pad your books. You want the Christians so you can say, "Oh yes, we're the Jesus people." I love the final line. You want your ledgers back. You want your ledgers black. We
Hmm.
want our children back.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I Renegades is such a great song and I love it. I love how just what they've become
Yeah.
with this album. Like it's while yes, they are very much still who they are, they've just kind of gotten a little more in your face about it.
Yeah.
So so
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's
Renegades is my number two.
fantastic track. And there's that the latest album is just chock full of good, yeah,
Oh
just
yeah,
great songs. But
it really
Renegades is,
is.
yeah, it's very, very good.
So number one, you obviously have a 1A, 1B, although you separate it into one and two. What is your number one?
Yeah, and they're linked together because my number one is it's off of the end is near, and it's Distant Shores. And the reason that I almost tried to cheat and make them 1A and 1B is because For people who aren't familiar with these tracks, I mentioned the ending tag that's on Every New Day.
Yeah.
Distant Shores brings that back, and it adds it on
Oh,
to
nice.
the end of the song as well. So, and so at my thought process was, at first I was like, okay, I need to pick either Every New Day or Distant Shores for my top three and let the other one go off because they both end the same way. Um, but then I was like, no, each one of these songs is so good in its own right and deserves a spot in the top three, that them kind of sharing that outro is just like a little Easter egg. Like the song, everything
Yeah.
leading up until that part for Distant Shores makes it like it would be a number one song anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Um, it's got a beautiful horn line.
Yeah.
Yeah. Such a beautiful horn line. The guitar is great. Um, the melodies are so good. And again, it's another song with a message about just feeling
Yeah.
absolutely worn down and broken, and that being who God is for, we not to keep spouting, progressive leftist stuff, but the conservatism has tried to co-opt Christianity as a brand and
Yeah.
uses it to support the wealthy and the powerful. And Christianity as a religion, like it's a religion born out of an occupied people group, right? Like
Yeah.
Christianity has always been a religion of the margins. And when Jesus says what he's about, he says he's about breaking the chains of the oppressed and setting the prisoner free and healing the sick and the poor, and like that, those are his people. And so that's what this song is like, when you are just absolutely at the end of your rope, crawling on your knees, just broken down, that that's when you are closest to him.
Yeah.
Um the bridge, there's a bridge before you even get to the ending tag that's just got this like, we don't get into theory a lot when we talk about stuff, but just this like I think it's a compound duple meter that goes into
Yeah.
the drums. It's just like, just is so driving. And Reese, I love and hate him because I've got a set of pipes, and there's very few bands that I can't belt along with, and Reese is one of them. Reese, when he gets going, like I cannot belt the way that
Yeah.
Reese belts and the range that he has. And this is one of those songs that, like, you could just you when that bridge comes in, it starts low and then it jumps up in the and you're like screaming at the top of your lungs. And then, like, when you get to the climax of the song and it feels like you're just about to explode, then it just transitions so completely seamlessly into that ending tag from Every New Day, and it just puts the bookend on it. And it's such an incredible song musically, great message. It had to be my number one, even if my number one and number two share a portion musically of the same song. But
That's awesome. All right. So my number one is a song that kind of hit me when I first listened to it, hit me very hard. And it very much has the way I've listened to it is very much of you can't go back. You can't relive. You can't, when something happens, it happens, move on. Not necessarily like that, but how I view it is very much of what you've lost. Sometimes you just can't get back. You need to be able to continue onward. And that's Blue Comb 78.
oh, hey,
I love that song. First time I
yeah.
heard it was on Proof That the Youth Are Revolting, and it was a live version, and I loved it. And I've listened to the studio version, and I love that. Blue Comb 78 just might be, it is my favorite Five Iron Frenzy song. I listened to it, what, over 20 years ago, and I will still go back and listen to it. And it doesn't matter the version, and I will go back and listen to it. And I love it. Like, I still love that song. So that had to take the number one spot for me. I mean, there are a lot of great songs that they've done. Anthem is one, Every New Day, A New Hope. So much of what they have done and what they've written over the years. I mean, it's incredible, both musically and like for the people who are watching this or listening to this, and if you are not a Christian, if it feels like that we're kind of rambling on about this, I'm not going to apologize to you, but at the same time, um, it it is very much a center of who Five Iron Frenzy is as a band. So it's obviously something that we kind of have to talk about. Um, I understand if you don't agree, 100% get it. I'm not bothered by it. I 100% respect what you choose to believe in your life. Um, this is just happens to be what Jeff and I believe. Jeff and a little more, uh, a little more than I do these days. But I will say, like, they have always been a band with a message and a message that I do believe in. So not just as a Christian, but as a person. And it's just this, they are an amazing band. They truly are. And it very kind of different from like a lot of what we're going to be discussing in the road to Supernova, especially next week. So very, very different, very different tone for next week's episode. Um, so yeah, Blue Comb 78, great
Yeah.
track. I will listen to it again and again. And I will continue to listen to it for the rest of my life. So
Yeah. I love that. Because that's a great example of one of those early Five Iron songs
yeah,
that you the the amount of depth that you go into it is like entirely contingent upon you, right? Like
yeah,
you can see it as a silly song about losing a comb out the window and then singing "Have You Seen My Comb?" uh and like fans used to bring them blue combs to their shows, like that was a thing, like they would just bring them and be
yeah,
like, I found it. And it was a silly song, but again, but that shows the way that they can take something silly, or at the very least something very seemingly very shallow, and add a depth to it. Because he says in the bridge of that song, like, something that was thrown out the window was the last great symbol of my youth, right? Like it's
yeah,
not just a comb, like there's something more going on there, and you can read into that, or you can just sing like, oh, have you seen my comb? It
yeah,
wasn't brown, like, and so I think that just is a great example of like what you bring to some of their songs, especially some of those early songs, will determine like the depth that you get out of them, I think.
exactly. So, so that's gonna be it for this stop on our road to Supernova. And I keep mentioning it. If you don't know, uh, because I keep mentioning Road to Supernova and I keep mentioning it on our socials. Supernova International Ska Festival happens in Hampton, Virginia. It is a 3 day long festival of straight ska reggae. It is some of the best music you will ever hear, and honestly, just one of the chillest festival environments you will ever find. Had a great time last year. I'm really looking forward to it this year. I know I'm going to go Saturday. I'm going to try and go Sunday. It just very much depends on A, my budget, and B, um, um, just how things are going with my wife recently had 2 surgeries. So she's actually feeling a lot better now. Thank you. Um, but she, at the same time, it, our life is crazy. So having to watch our son and everything else. So I'm hoping to go Sunday, but at the same time, we'll see what happens. I will be doing a Supernova wrap-up show because I do plan on talking to some people while I'm there and getting their opinions on how the ship festival is going. Um, so yeah, if you're going to go to Supernova and you see me there, say hi. I would love to talk to you. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Next week, I've mentioned it a couple times at the top of the show. We are going. I don't know if they've ever played Supernova. I want to say yes, they have, but I'm not 100% sure. Next week, we will be talking about the Aquabats. Obviously, they just got done with their 2 dates on Warp Tour. I'm fairly certain that they've played uh, Supernova before, and they are actually going to be in Virginia Beach over Labor Day weekend.
Yeah.
So I am very excited for that. Caitlin wants to go to Frank Turner on Friday night, but she does not want to go to the Aquabats. So I definitely want to go to Aquabats.
Yeah, I think we'll be down there for both, and there's a really great local band opening up for Aquabats on
Oh, really?
Saturdays. Padfoot, yeah, Padfoot.
Nice.
They just had their 10th anniversary. They played at the Annex just a few weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're awesome, and they're the ones who get to open up for the Aquabats. They call themselves Party Emo, and they're fantastic. So,
I love that.
yeah, if you're going to the Aquabats, come early, see Padfoot,
Yeah,
because
definitely.
they're a great band, and everyone needs to support local music.
Absolutely, 100%. He's not just saying that because he is a local musician. Um,
Unbiased opinion.
unbiased opinion. I very much agree with supporting local music, and we will be doing actually. I'll just go ahead and throw this out there because one of the episodes we are planning on doing is a bands you should know episode. We'll be doing that right before the week before Supernova, and I'm actually really excited about that one because we will be talking about like little known bands, bands you may not know about. But at the same time, I want to continue doing that as the show progresses and moves on and moves forward. And that's one of the things I really want to talk about is like local bands, smaller bands that you may not know about and get some shine on them because these bands are working hard to not just get their message out there and get their music out there, but just like the amount. And I think I won't say it's easier in this day and age of social media and TikTok and everything, but at the same time, the sheer number of bands I've found and start listening to because of social media, because of TikTok and things like that. Like Millington, you mentioned earlier, I saw them on TikTok and that's how I started listening to them. Joker's Republic is another band. Stop the Presses out of New York is another band. Like it's so great that you can now find these bands so much easier without having like I still go to shows, still buy their merch, still do stuff like that, listen to the music, but the fact that you're able to find them that much easier without having to go to a show. So especially for old timers like me who don't go out very much. So but that's gonna be it for today. We'll be back next week with our halfway point on our road to Supernova. Um, Jeff, once again, thank you, man. I know you guys got some shows coming up. And by the time this comes out, your most recent show will have already come and gone. We will be keeping you posted on that when Jeff has dates lined up. Well, we will be talking about them because I am a stupid fan of Sam's the Hero. I really, really am. Anyways, Jeff, thanks for coming on the show. I appreciate you, brother. Um,
Absolutely.
and I will see you next time. All right. Good night, everybody. Have a good day.